What up, brawlers? Welcome back to Throwin Hands. Daniel's back, per usual, but we have another special guest on today. Justin Jaynes just won his first UFC match. How's it feel, man?
Hey, man, feeling like $1,000,000. I'm just living the dream. Living the life I always dreamed about, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, I'm sure. All right, I'm going to get into a little quick question here. How'd you get the Guitar Hero nickname?
It was a college thing, in 2008, 2009, 2010. Guitar Hero was like a big deal. And, in college, I'd get drunk and jam out of my Guitar Hero and my fucking underwear on the tables and shit. And, one of my college roommates dared me to walk to the ring, pretending as if I was jamming the Guitar Hero. And if you guys want to check out my Instagram, I have some pictures of me in action, strumming the Guitar Hero as I'm walking to the ring. Sure Dog put it up. And then I asked him to take it down like 100 times because I didn't really want to go by that. It was just kind of a funny thing at once. But now the UFC likes it and they want me to keep it. So I'm the Guitar Hero. So let's fucking go.
No, all right, man. All right, so how'd you get started in MMA? Like how'd you start?
So 2007, I worked at a gym in Richmond, Michigan called Steel City. And I was preparing for, I was getting ready for college football, college wrestling. And a guy came in and, he knew I had a good wrestling background. And he asked if I'd ever want to do MMA. Initially, I said no. After a couple weeks, he talked me into doing some training. I liked it. I was kind of good at it from my wrestling base. And he talked me into taking a fight. I got submitted in like 2 minutes in my very first amateur fight. And I didn't want to go out 0-1, so I said I'd take one more fight. And then when I won that next fight, I was 1-1, and I just fell in love. I got hooked, and next thing I knew, I was fighting every weekend for the next 2 years.
So what kind of wrestling background did you have? You said you had the opportunity to wrestle in college. When did that start, and how far did you get in that?
You know what? I started wrestling when I was like 10 years old. I transitioned to high school wrestling pretty well. My team, we won a state championship a couple times, runner-up. I made it to state finals, ended up facing Jakob, another UFC 55er in the state finals. Then I transferred to Olivet. But you know what? MMA really hindered my wrestling in college because I was training more for MMA and boxing instead of focusing on my wrestling through college. So I didn't have a great college career for wrestling, but I showed up and I trained every day, to stay in shape for MMA. So again, my transition from wrestling to MMA was a lot smoother than my transition from MMA to wrestling right now. So like I said, I didn't really accomplish everything I wanted to do in wrestling in college due to MMA, but I still had a good time and, worked really hard and stayed in shape and still, it made me the fighter I am today. So I can't complain about it.
Yeah, so speaking of the fighter you are today, you're a smaller lightweight, 155, but you won 5'7". How does that? Do you have an advantage with that because of you don't have to cut as much weight? Like, what advantage did you see to that?
Yeah, I mean, you can say I don't have to cut as much weight, but man, I'm pretty thick, and cutting even to 155. I've missed weight, twice on 2 short notice fights. Obviously, when you're, competing for $500 compared to $10,000. Your motivation of getting into sauna is a little bit more, getting in the tub is a little bit more. So I don't see myself missing weight at 55 for the UFC. But with that being said, I think just my power, I might have short leverage and I'm short, but I have powerful legs. Like I said, I played college football first season. And I think I'm just as powerful as any, if not more powerful than any 55er out there.
So once you did get into MMA, like you said, you fought amateur. Once you did turn pro, those early days of your career, what was that like fighting on regional circuits, just doing what you could to get noticed? What were those early days like?
Man, I loved it. And it was just the only difference between amateur and pro. I had so many amateur fights. I had almost 50 amateur fights that, there was no pressure, man. The only difference was I was just getting paid and I wasn't getting paid well. And actually sometimes I even lost money. When I fought in Hawaii, it cost me money. No, that's not true. I think I made $100. I remember the corner handing me $100 bill. Fucking terrible. I fought in Scotland. It cost me like $1,000 out of pocket. So, there's no really transition until, like 2015, I fought for Bellator. And I finally got to feel what it was like to fight in a nice, big arena. And actually, that's not true because I fought some big arenas before, but for a bigger organization, for a bigger named organization. So I turned pro in 2013. It didn't really hit me until, I fought for WSOF in 2015 and Bellator in 2015 as well. So really the transition from amateur to pro wasn't a big deal to me. Even transitioning from the regional circuit to the UFC, man, I've dreamt of this for so long and, I've visualized this for so long. It's not a very hard transition for me.
So would you say that when you won the lightweight championship in the WXC, did that help you transition to the UFC, like with that championship mentality?
You know what? Belts just hold your pants up, man. Like, it was always just I was preparing. I want to get ready for fighting 5-round fights, and obviously the only way at the amateur scene is to fight for championships, man. I won the TWC 155-pound championship, the WXC 155-pound championship, the WXC 145-pound championship. It all came down to preparing for those 5-round fights. I mean, the organizations are great, and I do think that the TWC and the WXC do produce the best fighters out of the Midwest. But with that being said, it wasn't about the belt. It wasn't about winning the championship. It was preparing and how to prepare for those 5-round fights. So now, after I knock a couple more guys out in the UFC and I'm headlining a fight, I already know how to prepare for these 5-round fights. And, it just comes to experience. The belts, like I said, the belts just hold your pants up.
So with a wrestling background and you got so much experience early in your career fighting amateur, and then once you did turn pro, and obviously your first fight in the UFC was such an impressive knockout. Was it difficult to develop the striking to go along with the wrestling, or is that something that started to come natural at some point?
I have 2 left feet, and I was very fortunate to have the boxing coaches I did early on in my career. Kara Rowe, she's in Vegas right now, actually helping me, and TJ Larmy. TJ Larmy's fighting August 11th for Dana White Contender Series, so she's here helping. Her and Dave Lester were my first real official boxing coaches. And man, she put so much time into me because my footwork was just so fucking bad, or was, and it still is, but it was even worse before. So with that being said, the transition for me was tough, but now it's the opposite. Like I'd rather strike, I'd rather kickbox, I'd rather box, and use my wrestling as a secondary, using it as a defensive standpoint more than an offensive standpoint. So as for now, I coach boxing, and I continue to develop my boxing, my footwork. But again, I transitioned basically from a wrestler to a boxer, and I'm using my wrestling as secondary now.
So with your wrestling, a lot of people say that wrestling's by far, or not by far, but the most important martial art when it comes to MMA, because you get to pin, you can control people. Would you agree with that statement, and why? Or why not?
100%. And it's because I'll dictate, or the wrestler will dictate, where a good solid wrestler, given good circumstance, will dictate if we're standing on the feet, if we're down on the ground. Like when I like to start all my fights standing, I'm fighting for bonuses now. I want to knock everybody out. With that being said, if I get rocked or dropped or something, I want to be able to have the wrestling to fall back on to try to slow the pace down so I don't get finished. So, say I get hit with a big overhand right and I wobble backwards and he rushes in for the finish, I still want to have that wrestling base where I can shoot my double, take him down, let my head recover for the next 30 seconds or a minute and get back in the fight. These guys that are getting rocked and they're continuing to try to stand and strike is just, I think it's retarded. It's like, you're hurt. You're at a huge disadvantage right now. I mean, I even got criticized once. I got dropped by I got hit with a big right hand against Jakob Sales, and he rushes in for the finish. I shoot my double, he stuffs my double, and I end up pulling guard. People are like, oh, why would you pull guard? It's like, man, I need my head to recover. I don't want to stand and get in a firefight with somebody that has the adrenaline rush of hurting me, and is probably throwing harder strikes than when you're rocked. So I think wrestling is by far the toughest and by far the most important art of all the martial arts when it comes to MMA fighting.
All right, so you get into your first UFC fight. You take this fight on 48 hours notice, right?
A little less, but yes.
So how did when you got to that point, what was the most challenging part? What was your mindset going into it?
The weight for me is always the most challenging part. I'm a fat kid at heart. I love to eat, and I love to eat shitty food, and I like to drink beer. So that's always the hardest part for me, staying diligent on a diet when I don't have a fight coming up. I didn't have a fight coming up. So, I remember the Monday before the fight, like I remember me and my son went out to Cane's and ate fried chicken, like just shit that I wouldn't be eating. So when I got the call late Wednesday night, I was about 16 pounds over. I was 171 pounds. I planned on cutting weight all day Thursday and weighing in Friday morning. Well, then I got bombarded with doctor's appointments. I was at doctor's appointments running around all Vegas from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, I'm going to throw it back to my coaching staff, Roman Isbell, Dennis Davis, showing up at the gym at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., staying here until, Roman stayed with me at the gym till 3 o'clock in the morning, getting that weight off. Fighting is easy. I have 70 fights, MMA fights, and hundreds of wrestling matches. The hardest part for me is dieting and cutting weight.
So you go into this fight, you're matched up with Frank Camacho on short notice, and you're in your first UFC fight. He's a guy coming off a loss that's hungry for a win, hungry to get back in the W column. What was the mentality, or what was the environment in that octagon like? Because it was two guys that were really hungry for a win, it seemed like.
Here's the thing. Frank Camacho is a veteran of the sport. He's had 7 fights in the UFC. He's been a part of 4 fight of the night bonuses. This guy shows up. With that being said, coming off his last loss, sorry about that. I got a phone call. Sorry about that. Coming off a loss, I think I was like minus 300. He's a huge favorite in the fight. This is a do or die fight for him. When I was in the cage and Bruce was calling off our names, I was watching Frank, and I was watching his mannerisms. I was watching his posture. I was watching how he looked, how he felt. And, it's no shot at him because we're talking about a very experienced vet. I'm a fan of Frank Camacho. When watching his fight with Drew Dauber, watching his fight with, Hung Jung Lee, there's another fight that he had fight of the night of. I'm having a brain fart right now. I knew that he knew that it was – I was hoping that he couldn't handle the pressure because he had everything to lose in that fight. I have nothing to lose. So, again, when I looked across the cage and saw how nervous he was, I knew right then and there I was going to knock him on the first round.
So coming into that fight, it had been about a year and about a month since your last fight. Did you have to shake off any ring rust, or was there any trouble?
Not at all, man. I felt at home. I've had so many fights, dude. It's like I've never taken a year layoff. I don't believe. Usually I like to stay active. I want to stay active. I didn't take a year layoff because I didn't want to fight. I just didn't get any opportunity, man. I have 70 fights, dude. I could take 3 years off. And if I trained for 4 weeks, I'm gonna be the same Justin Jaynes I was as a killer, dude. It just comes from that ring experience, man. I knew what I had to do. The game plan was very, very simple. Hit him harder than he hit me and hit him first. I don't overcomplicate these game plans of, make him fear my wrestling and to my striking. No, I want to hit him harder than he hits me and faster than he hits me. And, I stuck to the game plan. That'll always be my game plan. So when it comes down to that, like I said, I could have a 3-year layoff. Give me a couple weeks of training. I'll be the same Justin Jaynes I always was.
It's pretty neat, man. And so coming into that fight, of course, you cut weight, you made weight, but Camacho didn't. And Camacho had known about this fight for a few weeks prior. And when you saw that he didn't make the weight, did you kind of figure out what his mindset was from that?
It's not making weight. And from experience, it says a lot of things. It just says you weren't really prepared. Now, anytime I've put in a full fight camp, I've never missed weight. I've missed weight two or three times throughout my career from, the week notice fights or the 2 week notice fights. But to know that he's known for at least a month and he still misses weight, that tells me his diet wasn't serious and he wasn't training as hard as he normally does, man. I just don't think he was prepared. And then when he got the opponent switch, I think it really fucked with him. And again, I was put in a situation where I have nothing to lose and he has everything to lose, and I took advantage of the situation. My biggest fear, honestly, was when I heard that he was having a hard time making weight. Like, I just wanted him to stop cutting weight because there's been fights canceled because these guys, veterans like him, will push so hard to make the weight that they end up hospitalizing themselves and getting an IV. So as soon as Jason, my manager, hit me up and said he was having a hard time making weight or he might not make it, I told him just stop cutting weight, because with my luck and the way things have rolled out for me is, Frank Camacho misses weight, gets IV'd, and then the fight gets canceled. So I didn't care. I just wanted him healthy and to show up on Saturday.
So you get into the octagon. You're finally there. You hear your name called. Having fought for this for so long with 70 MMA fights, what was going through your mind at that moment when you hear your name called in the octagon, announced, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Justin Jaynes? What's going through your mind in that moment?
So it's really cool. So, it was obviously a surreal experience, and everything just happened so fast. I get the call late Wednesday night, like 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Thursday, 9 a.m., I'm at the doctor's. I don't have any time. I just didn't, as I told in every interview I've had since, it didn't click with me. It seemed like a dream. It seemed like something was going to happen. It was too good to be true. there's actually, if you watch the full fight video from when Bruce is calling our names off, like I stepped in the ring and I was like, I couldn't believe where I was. I couldn't believe I'm getting goosebumps, like talking about this right now. Like this is like, seriously, it was such an emotional overload all at once. And it still is. So when watching the film, as Bruce is calling off my name, you'll see me like start shaking my head yes. And I just remember thinking in my head, like, I'm supposed to be here. I've and again, getting goosebumps again. Like, I just remember thinking, like, I'm supposed to be here and I'm going to knock this motherfucker out. Like, he's standing in the way for me and my dreams coming true. And like I said, and it's really surreal watching the fight, knowing exactly at what point, at what was going through my head. You'll see me, like I said, I'll start shaking my head yes. It's basically just reiterating myself that I'm supposed to be here. I was meant to be here. I've been here 1,000 times in my mind already. This is going to be so much fun, and I had a lot of fun that night.
Speaking of, it was your time to be there. It was your time to be there. You knocked the guy out. You knocked Camacho out in 41 seconds. What was that feeling like, knowing that you kind of like achieved a dream of yours, that you'd want to fight in the UFC?
Dude, like I'm saying, it's just the feeling. The only way I wish I could describe it in words, but I just can't. It was just so overwhelming, honestly. Like, just everything was happening so fast, and I went from a good regional fighter to having the fastest knockout of a debut fighter in the UFC in the history. It's the second fastest finish of a debut fighter, and the only finish that was faster than mine was a submission, and it was like 2 seconds faster or 3 seconds faster. So to know that I have the fastest knockout in UFC debut history is pretty surreal. I can't really wrap my head around that right now. And like I said, thinking about it is just, it's overwhelming. It's over emotional. I can't describe in words how I feel about it.
You pull off the big win, 41 seconds. Were you looking to try to go for an early finish? Was that your game plan coming in, or were you just going to try to feel that fight out, and if the opportunity presented itself, go after that?
I planned on a phone booth style fight. Watching Frank's fights, I know that's the kind of fight he likes. I wanted to put a pace on him. I knew my thought was his cardio might be a little affected by the weight cut. He missed weight, man. And when you miss weight, that does drain on your cardio. So literally I wanted to stand elbow to elbow and throw punches as hard as I could for 15 minutes. And if I knocked him out, I knocked him out. If he knocked me out, he knocked me out. Fortunately I was one to land the hard shot first. And, and that's my game plan in all my fights, man. I just want to apply pressure and keep applying pressure for 15 or 25 minutes or until my opponent breaks. And I was able to hit him hard enough to break him.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, you win this fight. Did you get a contract, or are you going to return to the UFC anytime soon?
Yeah, dude, I'm looking for a quick turnaround. I'm actually talking to my manager a few minutes before I jumped into this conversation. Justin Jaynes, the Guitar Hero, will have a quick turnaround, and you will see me in the next couple of weeks real soon.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you fight.
I'm telling you, it's coming in the next couple of weeks.
All right, I can't wait. So you're with Extreme Couture. That's your team. What have you learned from being on that really great team over there in Vegas?
Dude, I've learned so much, not just about fighting, but just about life and, people and, who's loyal, and learned about loyalty over the years. And, I get to train with some of the best fighters in the world. UFC champions are coming in, every week. And that's what kind of separates Extreme Couture from other gyms. It's not only is it coaching, how great the coaches are here, but the looks I get, like Zabit, the 45-pounder Zabit, I got to go with him a couple times. Justin Gaethje's in and out of here. Brad Tavares and all the Hawaiians, Boston Salmon, one of the highest credentialed boxers in MMA. I worked my boxing with Joel Casamayor, who was an Olympic champion for boxing. Dennis Davis, who had 40 pro fights. Roman Isbell, who unfortunately had to retire his MMA career due to losing vision in one eye during training. But we have a great facility, we have a great coaching staff, and I have some of the best teammates in the world.
Hey, that's so. Do you know Randy Couture?
Yeah, I actually lived at his house for a couple months. When I first came to Vegas in 2008, I was doing my internship here at the gym, and I had a dispute with my landlord, and I came home and all my shit was outside of the house. And I told Ryan, Randy's son, and Ryan's like, "Hey, why don't you come stay with me and Dad? You're only here for another month." And I was like, all right, bet. So I actually moved into Randy's house, and I stayed in his spare bedroom for 3 months. And you got to look at what kind of guy Randy is. Like, look at the character that he doesn't know me. I'm some college kid that is friends with his son. He doesn't know me any better than, he knows somebody walking down the street, to invite me into his house, to let me stay at his house, to watch his house. It wasn't like I had a guard on me at all times. He trusted me, and, it just goes to show you what kind of person Randy Couture is. And Ryan Couture, Ryan Couture is now a part of the UFC, or excuse me, a part of Extreme Couture. He's the CEO of Extreme Couture. These guys are the ones that gave me the shot, and that's why I'm here right now, where I'm at.
Yeah, we know Randy Couture is an absolute legend when it comes to the UFC. What have you learned from him from a fighting perspective that you've put into your game?
Hey, you know what? So when I was 4-0 and I went down to Hawaii and I took a bullshit decision loss to a Hawaiian. It was actually Robbie Ostovich, Ray Ostovich's brother. And it was probably the most boring fight I've ever had in my whole life. But, you got to beat the hometown guy, in Hawaii to win. And when I came back, I was all depressed. And I just remember Randy telling me, he's, hey, man, how you doing? I was, man, boss, I'm doing pretty shitty. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And he's like, well, why is that? I was like, yeah, I just lost my first pro fight. And he smiles. He said, Justin, if the worst thing that happens to you in the next couple weeks is you lost an MMA fight, you're doing pretty good. And I just thought about it for a second. And, I've lived by that, and that's helped me get through a couple more losses. All my losses have been by decision. I think 3 out of my 4 losses are coin flip losses or bullshit losses for that matter. And, Jimmy Sakuza beat me in the World Series in like 2015. We're talking 5 years ago. And I've gotten so much better since then, man. And, every time I did take a loss early on, I just think about that. That's the worst thing going on, in my life. I'm doing pretty good.
So now you're set up with at least one more fight with the UFC. It's going to be soon. As far as how you fight, your style, how do you want to see yourself progress moving forward as a fighter?
Fight of the night bonuses, man. That's the only progression I want to see. That's the only thing I care about right now is winning and fight of the night bonuses. I don't care to go in there, and there's a lot of guys I could just take down and grind, or maybe I find a submission, or maybe I pound them out. But honestly, to the casual fan, nobody wants to see that shit. I want people to see my name. I want people to see the Guitar Hero and be like, oh shit, this is going to be a banger. Like, this guy is going to come in and just sling leather, like a Justin Gaethje style. After training with Justin and watching him fight, like, that's what I want to emulate. I want to put pressure on guys and throw big hands and use my wrestling as secondary. If I need to get a takedown to recover, or if, I want to grind somebody and gas them before I knock them out, that's one thing. But most of the time, I just want a heavy pressure forward. I want to knock people out.
So what do you want to say to people that don't know anything about your fighting style? Like, what would you want to tell them right away? Or do you have anything to say in general?
I don't really have anything to just watch out. Remember the name, dude, because win or lose, I'm fighting for fight of the night bonuses, man. And that's what the fans want to see. And they want to see a slobber knocker, want to see me get my head knocked off, or somebody get their head knocked off. Tune in, man. The Guitar Hero's coming. He's slinging punches.
Did you win a bonus for your last fight?
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go.
Debut, $50K bonus, knockout bonus, whatever you want to call it, and I'm hungry for it now. So once you get a little taste of that extra bonus money, it's like eating ice cream for the first time. Once you eat ice cream for the first time, you want some more, and I'm gonna keep fighting for that ice cream.
All right, Dan, you got anything, man?
I'm done.
All right, Justin, where can the people find you on social media?
You got Justin Jaynes MMA at Twitter, or at Justin Jaynes MMA at Twitter. JAY09MI at Instagram. That's my first 3 letters of my last name. My favorite number is 09. And then Michigan, where I'm originally from. And then Facebook is Justin Jaynes, the athlete page. All right, Justin, thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. Hey, no problem, man. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a good one, all right? All right. You too, man. All right, brothers. We'll see you guys next time on another episode.